Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Pursuit of Profit. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, Leanne Ozaine-Smith. Hello.
Hi, Chris. Hello.
Hi.
Guess what I'm gonna do? Guess what I'm gonna do today?
What are you doing today?
I am going to throw myself under the bus.
Oh, juicy. I like it. Everybody loves that.
I am going to tell all of my own dirty laundry.
That's a really good teaser.
And all of the things that I did wrong with money when I was stymied, stalled,
yes, right.
and waiting, right?
Yeah. It's really good. You guys go back and listen to the last episode where we talked about money and the hero's journey, because it really sets up sort of, you can see Leanne's story today and throwing herself under the bus inside of these seasons we covered in the hero's journey episode. But first of all, let me say thank you for being transparent and vulnerable today. I know it's not your favorite thing to do, but I also know that none of us are perfect. None of us have it figured out. But you have figured some things out in your journey.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I would go as far to say, I don't know that you've ever specifically said this. I would go as far to say it's what birthed this work that you're doing now. Like this profit first coaching that you do. Yeah. Right. Is actually sourced from the lessons in life you learned, and they are very painful lessons in terms of money. Painful. So let's discuss them, because what I want for you as listeners is to hear where you might be in this process, and just know that there are answers, and there is another side to the story. So take me back. Like, we called this episode $1 Million and Not Profitable. Like, take me back.
I'll just come right out and say it.
Yeah.
So in 2006, my business made over $1 million. And I was like rocking it, right? I was like doing work and making money, and it was awesome. Yeah. Except there was a dirty little secret. And the dirty little secret, I kept it from my husband. I kept it from everybody around me. And that dirty little secret is that I was making some really bad financial decisions. And there was a very bad night, one night, where my husband came to me and he said, he gave me permission to share this story. Nice. So he came to me and said, "Hun, we have bills. I need you to give me some money." And I looked at him and said, "I can't." And he's like, "What?" And the truth of the matter is that I literally could not give him $100. This is the truth. I made $1 million, but I couldn't give my husband $100 when he came and asked me to contribute to the family. Wow. So needless to say, we had a nice fight.
Yeah, that would be a
And I'll never forget him saying to me, "Leanne," no, he was nicer than that, but how could you make $1 million and not be able to give me 100? How? And I was petrified. I felt like the smallest, dumbest, stupidest girl in the world. And here I've got this man that I'm losing his respect, and it's just awful, right? Yeah. He throws in there, "And you walked away from a 6-figure salary to go start this business. You can't give me $100. Like, what are you going to do to fix it?" Right. And I just was like, I don't know. Because here's the thing. I had already done all the things that good little entrepreneurs were supposed to do. I went and hired anybody who had a C in their credentials. CPA, CFPs, CEOs, CFOs, people who were gurus, because I knew and felt that something wasn't going wrong, because we're right. Money was coming in, and I was, being fabulous, and I was on speaking tour, but I was kind of watching it, but I could tell like money was coming in, but it was going out faster than I could fill up the bank accounts. There was this stress that I was unconsciously carrying around, and I remember feeling like the juggle. And so then I decided to do something really smart. Not smart. I decided that, and I see people do this all the time. I'm like, okay, cash flow just gets really tight at this point of the month. It's stressing me out, and I'm on the road, so I can't do this. And so I opened up a line of credit. Because I'm like, that'll work. Like the
Right.
money eventually comes in. And so I started this behavior of like putting payroll on line of credit, and then the demands of the business and the stuff and just the normal business life. I would get to the end of the month and I couldn't pay the line of credit off. And so I created a monster. I created a 6-figure line of credit instead of a 6-figure salary.
Right.
And so I made really conscious business investments. Like I hired the gurus, and and all the gurus could say to me about how to fix this financial problem was cut expenses and make more money. And I'm like, thanks,
Thanks for that.
Thanks for that. I've already tried that.
Right.
And so things were just out of control. And my husband didn't know about the line of credit. I kept thinking it would fix. I kept thinking it would get better.
Right.
And it wasn't. It was getting worse. And there I am that one night in the basement looking my husband of 11 years in the eyes and saying, I can't give you $100. And I'm having to answer his scornful but righteous questions.
Right.
Questions that probably the gurus that I hired should have asked me.
Right.
So I don't want to leave the story there because obviously we moved beyond it.
Right.
And so, but before you tell the rest of the story, I want to talk to the audience and just say, like, if you've been following this podcast or this vlog, you know that I'm always saying, oh, I get it. Oh, I know. Yeah. Or if you've worked with me, I'll sit there with you and go, oh, that hurts. I know.
Yeah.
I know because I've been there. But the truth is, I don't tell this story because I too decided that it was shameful, and it's hard for me to share my failure.
Right.
But I want to do it in the spirit of serving other business owners because I am no longer stymied and stalled. I am in the next phase of what I'm meant to do, and so part of that means I need to share my shit. So here it is.
Well, I just want to say that because I think sometimes, I think there's a lot of us in business walking around pretending like we've got it all together, right? We're making whatever we're making. Maybe most of us aren't making $1 million a year, but we're making money, and whether we're trying to put a good face on for our family. Yep,
I was.
Part of that's just, and I think for a lot of people, it's not even trying to be duplicitous. Right. No. It's just that we're trying to be strong for our family, and we're trying to figure it out as we go. Yeah. But that's sensitive. Like I know, like in our family, like we start having conversations, sometimes opposites attract. Like my wife likes stability and I have a higher risk tolerance. So if she knew half the time, like, like how tight it can get, it's like that conversation probably wouldn't go well.
Yeah.
And so rather than create concern and worry over here with her, I just shoulder it. Believing that what I'm up to is important. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think sometimes that's where we find ourselves, but we all have this thing where it's like, God, am I stupid? Am I just dumb? Like why? And so thank you for sharing it because it gives us permission to just not feel alone, or like we're not the only ones that, are wrestling with this issue.
No, not at all. Most people are.
In fact, you as an expert, because I would consider you an expert in this, because you have gotten to the other side and you now can guide us to where you are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like that you, the expert, have been here. And in fact, because you were here is what makes you an expert. So, I mean.
I'm not sure I'm proud of it, but yes, that's true.
Well, I'm proud of it because, you rose above it. You figured it out. You cracked the code. And now you get to help us. You get to help us crack the code too. So.
Yep. So I was totally mortified when all this happened. And so I did something rash because I'm kind of that behavior type. So I went into the office, I laid everybody off but one person. And I just like hunkered down, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. So first of all, I had to like get through the depression and the shame, but it wasn't going to go anywhere. Like my husband was not. He is like the most easygoing man in the world, but he was not being easygoing about this, right?
Yeah.
Especially when he learned there was a 6-figure line of credit.
Yeah.
That was a bad day in my life.
It's a bad day.
Spoiler alert, it's paid off.
Spoiler.
Yeah. And so what I did is I got mad, and I did the only thing that I knew to do. So quickly, I want everybody to know, like, I have a degree in English.
Yeah.
I love books and the theater and things like that. So like sitting down with bank statements was just the only thing I could think of, because I didn't, at that time, I wasn't a financial planner like I am now. I just was like a depressed businesswoman, with a 6-figure line of credit and no money. So I went through my bank statements, and I had highlighters, and I looked and I looked and I looked at what I spent money on. And what I did, that priorities started to reveal themselves, because I looked at months and months and months, and I figured out my behavior. And the bottom line of looking at all of that is I saw some naivete pop up. I saw some misguided decisions, like that were, in other words, stupid decisions that I told myself were good business decisions. But when I look at it with this like new perspective, I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I spend that money on that? And so this picture started to form in front of my eyes. And then when I was seeing it, I was like, if I had made that choice, I wouldn't have had this conversation tonight. If I wouldn't have done that with my money, I could have done this instead. And so my brain was just sorting it out. And so after I did all of that, I kind of got out of the ashes, so to speak, because I had some clarity. And that clarity is, I made $1 million, but I spent $1 million.
Right.
Well, that's kind of the bump. Yes, of course. And that's obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me at the time. And it isn't obvious to most of the people that I work with. Right. So I went back to work. I had the exact same employee, the exact same product, exact same pricing structure. But what changed in me is I have this total commitment to beating this. I'm super competitive. And so I started to alter the way that I made business decisions, and I started to alter the way I handled money. And one of the things that I did and this was like 2007, I had this thought, and I was like, look, every dollar that I don't spend in my, business 2.0, every dollar that I don't spend is actually profit. When you really think about it, profit is, most people frame it as profit is what's left over after you've paid all of your bills.
Right.
I don't frame it that way. I'm like, no, profit is money that wasn't spent on the business. That's how we frame it. So I was like, when I choose and I make a business decision, I'm going to start right away. Like, my first goal was I had to have a paycheck, or my husband might have divorced me, right? Like, it was serious. I had to get it done. So I knew I had to pay myself, and I knew I had to protect my profit from my bad behavior. And so I started this process in 2007 of like, okay, I'd look at the bank account and I'd move money out and to save my profit. And I figured out a way to pay myself. And we won't go into all the details, but what I can tell you is it took about 2 years to get to the place where I was out of that financial fog, and I paid off my line of credit. I paid myself. I still have the same employee. She still works for me. We got out of it, and we got out of it not because I'm brilliant, and not because of anything other than I changed what I did with money dramatically. And I changed how I made business decisions. And I created profitable habits, like paying myself first, taking my profit and sending it to safety. And one of my most triumphant moments, it was after about 2 years of this hard work, and I failed a lot, and it didn't always work like I'm talking about, but for the most part, we got through those 2 years. The business was still fine, viable. And I'll just never forget, like, I had a $45,000 check. And it was the profits that I had sent away, right? I just kind of made myself not have them. Like, they go over there. And so I walked in with a clear conscience, knowing that I was no longer on a payment plan with the IRS. I was no longer in this terrible situation where I had a line of credit that I had to deal with. And so I took this check and I took it to my financial advisor, and I gave it to her and said, please invest this, because I wanted to know that those profits I'd squirreled away would create profit of their own. And so That's my dirty little story,
Wow.
Chris.
It's a good one. That's super
Oh
juicy.
my gosh. So embarrassing.
It's so good though, because it's real.
Yes, it was real.
I can't think of any person who hasn't had, at least any American person who hasn't had this type of colorful conversation with their significant other,
Right.
or their own internal dialogue about who they think they are based on what has happened with money. And then you either break through that or you stay a prisoner of it.
Yeah.
But we've all had it. So it's not like, right, it's not like it's unique to you.
No.
You, Leanne, it's not like it's unique to you listening to this. The only question is whether you break through to the other side or you stay stuck in your prison of, shame and embarrassment and whatever.
Bankruptcy or anything like that.
Right. Sometimes I think the load you carry with all that shame, that weight, that darkness of that can keep you from wanting to make a change, because you're just like, I don't even know where I'd start. I'm so buried in a 6-figure line of credit.
Yep.
My relationship with my significant other is beyond repair because of the choices I've made. Like, there's a lot of places where we can get where we feel like, I don't know if I could ever get to the other side of it. And so what we do then is we take the seed of what was a good business and we just throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
We throw our dreams away because we don't know how to get to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note, I would say that a true confession here is that when my dreams were in charge of my business, there was no profit. But when I got to the place where I was like, look, I can have my dream and I can have profit if I would just be smart.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of the shift happened. It happened. It's going to sound really touchy-feely, and Chris, I'm not a touchy-feely girl.
I know.
But it's like I had to really own and feel the condemnation that I felt, and just be like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But it was going to feel like such an enormous failure. Because here's what we do as business owners. I did it for sure. People come up to me in that terrible season before my husband confronted me and I was putting payroll on the line of credit. People come up to me and say like, hey, how's business? And I do what every business owner does when you ask that question, because everybody assumes that your business is going well. It's not really politically correct to say, it sucks. I'm actually putting payroll on a line of credit right now and kind of stressed. Nobody says that. They don't do it. And so I would say, oh, it's awesome. I just got back from a 6-city speaking tour. I had such a good time. I met such great people. But in me, I was like, I felt like I was fraud. Like I was lying to people who really cared about me. And lying to myself. And at some point, I just reached the point of like, I have to fix it. And leaving my business wasn't an option because I had this line of credit. So I didn't even get to walk away from it. I had to stick in there and do it. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I did. It was, I feel like probably 50% of the time that people come to me, I'm talking them out of walking away from their business. Like, don't do it.
Right.
Fix what's broken.
Yeah.
Don't throw away the seed. Like you just said, fix the right thing, not the wrong thing. Yeah. So that's my dirty little story.
That's totally what, go back like last episode on the hero's journey. That's totally what can happen when you're stymied or you're stalled. You start grasping for things and you might throw away your business. I also love what you said about there's this thing about like, you can't really have a breakthrough until you experience the fullness of your breakdown. And because it's not comfortable to confront the ugly feelings of it, we medicate, we distract ourselves, right? Whatever your vice is or whatever your distraction mechanism is, we just push those feelings down.
Yep.
But until you actually come face to face with the demons of it, the dragon, the shadowy painfulness of it, you can't actually commit. You won't actually commit in a way that sticks.
True.
Yeah.
Totally true.
Yeah.
This thing changed my life, right?
Yep.
It changed who I am as a human being. I could no longer be like, fabulous and like get away with it. And then, like, I had to get really serious. And because it changed my life and changed my being, my heart changed in this situation. I I got to a place where I was like, the next time somebody asks me for help, I'm going to give them real help. The irony, let's throw this in. This is the cherry on top. The irony of all of this is that I have always, the only businesses I have ever owned have been financial in nature. Oh,
wow.
So on really some level, when I was running around the country and I was doing my thing on stage, I was talking about money.
Wow.
And I was in a place where I was close to failure with that. So the passion that I have for what I do comes from the basic two problems. I didn't have any financial credentials when I went through this, but after I got through it, I was like, I am going back to school and I'm going to figure out how to put some letters after my name that are financial. Like for me, that was like the boom. I conquered it, right?
Right.
And I'm so competitive, you know me. I was like, I'm doing that. And so that's partially why I went back to school. So I really want to help people with their finances. And so for a while, I was doing this thing where I was only doing financial planning and figuring out how to talk to people about investments and that kind of thing. But oh my word, it's so boring to talk about life insurance, although I like life insurance, investments, the same conversation all the time. And about 3 years ago, I reached a place where I was like, look, I am not doing it this way anymore. Like I'm skilled. I'm good at what I do. I want to work with business owners. I want to put my financial planner hat on. And I want to walk into a room of business owners and say, you're stuck financially. I know how to get you out of it because I got out of it.
Right.
And so that's really where my profit coaching practice came from and why I'm so stinking determined. Right? Like got to figure out how to reach people with this because almost all business owners that I know want to have this conversation. They just don't know who to talk to.
Yeah. So good. I love it. That's why I love what you're up to. So
thanks.
Well, the best place for you guys to start with Leanne, if you're listening to this, is to go to profitdiscoverycall.com and schedule time with Leanne. Is that right, Leanne, or do you want to point them anywhere else?
No, that's perfect.
I know you got some fun things that you're working on, so we can leave that as a reveal for later. But
that's coming later.
For now, you guys can go to profitdiscoverycall.com and connect with Leanne there. Schedule time on her calendar. It's a free conversation. Right. Yep. And I've been through the Profit Discovery Call conversation and it's amazing. Like what you get in a free call with Leanne is incredible. All those questions she said she wishes the C-suite of people would have asked her. Like she asks you incredible questions and you leave that meeting with lots of perspective and you'll most likely want to work with her moving forward to help you really get to the other side of your profit. So any last minute thoughts, Leanne?
Nope. I think I'm done throwing myself under the bus.
I think you did it.
For the next 20 years. I think I'm done.
You did it great. You did it great. That's a great origin story. You keep sharing that story.
Okay. I'm trying.
I love it. All right. Well, we'll see you later, friend. All you listening, catch you next time. Bye.
See you later.